Welcome, travelers. This is the Baseball Time Machine. In 1917, Babe Ruth and Ernie Shore threw a combined no-hitter, the first in MLB history. The problem is, Ruth failed to record a single out. Today's journey tells a story of frustration, brutality, perfection under imperfect circumstances, a historical eclipse, and a controversial decision almost 75 years later. How did this happen? Let's step into the portal and find out. Babe Ruth and Ernie Shore go way back. The two played minor league baseball together for the Baltimore Orioles, at that time in the International League. Shore was a better pitcher than Ruth, but Babe received far more praise. When they were purchased together by the Red Sox, one newspaper noted that the transaction was smart for Boston because of Ruth specifically. Shore, 4 years older than Ruth, was definitely the better ball player when they first arrived to their new team. Ernie fit right into the starting rotation, while Ruth struggled and was even sent back to the minor leagues at one point. Shore started 2 games of the 1915 World Series, including the opener. Ruth didn't play at all, outside of a single appearance as a pinch hitter. The two men were quite different. Shore was an older, more reserved college man. Babe was a reform school product, as rowdy and outspoken as they come. The two different personalities were roommates again in Boston. According to Ernie, the two got along well, as he was the only man Ruth would listen to. They thought very highly of each other, but buddies, roommates, and trade pieces aren't the only connections they have throughout baseball history. On June 23, 1917, Babe Ruth was on the bump for the matinee game of the doubleheader between Boston and the Washington Senators. Ernie Shore was resting in the dugout as he pitched 5 innings just 2 days prior. It was well known that 22-year-old Ruth was an animated character and didn't often shy away from showing his temper. He was having a fantastic season, coming into that game with a 12-4 record and an ERA under .250. The first pitch to Washington's Ray Morgan was called a ball. Ruth complained about the call, but continued on. Next pitch, ball 2. Ruth shouted something towards home plate umpire Brick Owens, who motioned for Ruth to stop his belly aching. The 2-0 missed the zone for ball 3. Ruth yelled directly at Owens, recommending that he start paying attention. Brick Owens stood up to the young pitcher, shouting at him to get back on the mound and do his job. Babe stomped around the mound angrily before stepping back on the bump.
Ball 4!
Owens exclaimed, as Ruth had heard enough. Babe again questioned Owens' vision. Owens gave him a chance, but threatened to toss him from the game if he kept on with this charade. Ruth, never one to turn down a scuffle, threatened the veteran umpire. Brick had no choice but to eject him from the game, stepping across the plate towards Ruth in the process. Babe rushed him, looking to get physical with the 32-year-old Owens. Red Sox catcher Chester Thomas tried to play peacemaker, getting between Ruth and Owens, but he was much better at blocking baseballs than blocking fists. Babe swung over Thomas's shoulder, missing with a right, but landing a left on the back of Owens' neck. Ruth was at the point of no return and had to be pulled away by his catcher and manager. Policemen had to come down from the stands and lead Ruth off the field. Only 4 pitches into the game, the Red Sox needed to look for a new pitcher. Manager Jack Barry turned to Babe's roommate, Ernie Shore, who had been pretty reliable throughout the season. Shore, on only 1 day's rest, took his 8 warm-up pitches, and the game was resumed. As he threw his first pitch, Morgan, the man that Ruth walked aboard, took off for second. Chester Thomas had a superb arm and eliminated him off the base paths. Shore would retire the next 2 batters, and then the next 24 batters. Ernie Shore didn't allow a base runner the entire game. Boston won the game 4-0, and Shore was credited with a perfect game, despite Ruth allowing a base runner. As for the Babe, American League President Ban Johnson took care of him, suspending him 10 days and fining him $100. And after Ruth came back from the suspension, everything pretty much went back to normal. Both Shore and Ruth finished 1917 strong, and the Red Sox finished just short of another AL pennant, going 90, 62, and 5. Ernie Shore became a military man, entering the armed forces and missing the 1918 season. Babe Ruth stayed with the Red Sox, leading MLB in home runs as baseball began to exit the Deadball Era. When Shore returned, he was traded to the New York Yankees. Shore and Ruth would be reunited, as Ruth was purchased by the Yankees just over 1 year later. They were roommates once again in the Bronx, but things would begin to taper off from there. Shore wasn't the same pitcher as he was before he left for the military. His struggles piled up, and he was traded to the minor league Vernon Tigers. After 1 season in the minors, Shore retired from baseball at only 30 years old. As Ernie's career was ending, Babe's was taking off. We know his story. Ruth joined the Yankees and became arguably the most iconic sports figure of all time. 4 World Series championships, 659 home runs, almost 2,000 RBIs, all with the Bronx Bombers. In 1936, he was inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame as a member of their inaugural class. While Ruth was entering Cooperstown, Shore was the sheriff of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, a position he'd hold until 1970. After a day that would keep them tied together in baseball history, their lives couldn't have gone in more opposite directions. Babe Ruth passed away from pneumonia and metastatic cancer in 1948. Ernie Shore passed away over 3 decades later in 1980, of complications from a stroke suffered 5 years prior. It seemed that their story together was all but over, until 1991. In 1991, MLB Commissioner Fay Vincent, in collaboration with the Committee for Statistical Accuracy, decided to expunge over 50 past big league games. Maybe most notably, the committee officially made Roger Maris the single-season home run king, dropping the asterisk that separated him from Babe Ruth's 154-game record of 60. They also changed the definition of a no-hitter. The pitcher was now required to throw 9 full innings and a complete game. Due to this rule change, several tremendous outings were changed in the record books. Harvey Haddock's 12 innings of perfection, Pedro Martinez's 9 no-hit innings, and the Rays' 2021 7-inning no-no were all examples of no-hitters not recognized by MLB. And 74 years later, Ernie Shore had lost his perfect game. Yes, he pitched a full 9 innings, and recorded 27 outs while on the mound, but Babe Ruth faced that first batter. Almost his entire legacy was erased with a single rule change. He was credited with a combined no-hitter instead. This became the first combined no-no in MLB history, and the only one until 1967. Ernie Shore's tremendous feat was significantly diminished with the rule change. There have only been 23 perfect games in MLB's 150-plus year history. Without Fay Vincent and his committee's work, Shore's name would still be on one of baseball's most special lists. Instead, he's been virtually forgotten by the sport. Baseball fans are aware of Shore's special game more because of who started it than who finished it. His biggest accomplishment has been almost completely eclipsed by the Babe's temper. It should be remembered that in one of the most unforgettable games of the Deadball Era, Ernie Shore shined brightest. The first combined no-hitter might have just been the craziest, containing a series of events that baseball fans surely will never see again. This has been the Baseball Time Machine. Thanks for traveling with me.